Evening, guys. So this is a story about failure and the personal crisis that I went through after failing very publicly and my road back to finding what I consider the meaning of life. It's actually a very painful story. I've done this speech a number of times, but thankfully tonight I only have 5 minutes, so it can't be that painful. So let me give you the backdrop. I, along with some others, started a startup in Philadelphia. It did reasonably well. We were able to get some funding. We raised a significant amount of money. We built a product. We took it to market. But eventually it failed. And it was a company called Moul. You may have seen it in the news. I lost my investors' money. I lost millions of dollars from my investors. Worse yet, I lost my mother-in-law's money. You never want to do that. My sister's money, my best friend's money, and frankly, about half of my own personal life savings. So it was incredibly painful. But apart from that, it was publicly very, very, to me, embarrassing. Here's a guy that's trying to sort of galvanize the startup community and be a champion, and I failed really, really publicly and was covered, obviously, in the press. So I did what any self-respecting entrepreneur would do. I grew a beard, went out into the desert, drank copious amounts of tequila, and wallowed in my self-despair. And I eventually came to the question that I think we all eventually ask ourselves, the existential question, what the fuck? I worked incredibly hard. I did everything I was supposed to do, and I still failed. And if that can happen, then what is the point? So I was lucky enough to spend a little bit of time at a lake house. And I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of praying. I did a lot of meditating. I argued with God ad nauseum and asking life's really, really big questions. And one day, it was a very peaceful day, I'll never forget, I heard his voice very clearly, and he said, "Bob, what do you want?" And I said, "I want peace of mind, I want stability, and I want a life that matters." And he said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Is this a trick question?" Of course that's what I want. And so I came away from that experience with my own personal big answers, but I think the most significant thing was that I was going to live my life on purpose and make decisions accordingly. So the road back, I did a lot of reading, I did a lot of again, meditating, and I eventually created a life strategy for myself, and there were 4 components to it. The first was really about healing and forgiveness. And I think a lot of us carry a lot of that around with us, and you're, my view, never going to really get to where you want to be as a complete human if you're carrying that with you. So I had to do a lot of forgiving and healing. Second thing was I decided, again, to live my life on purpose. Mark Twain said the 2 most important days in your life, the day you were born and the day you figure out why. And so, simple decision, but I said, I'm not going to be reactive anymore, I'm going to be proactive. And this whole sort of notion of living with intention and being very purposeful about your life, if you've ever been around a person who is on purpose, they are on fire. They just give off energy, and they're incredibly positive. And that's what I wanted. Along with that, mindset. The quality of our thoughts really does shape the quality of our life. And one of the biggest lessons I learned is we don't always get to choose what happens to us, but we do get to choose how we respond. And when you figure that out, I think you're on your way to living, an empowered life. Ego. I'll be the first to admit that I have an ego, and I've worked really, really hard at sort of quieting that and just not taking myself so seriously. And I think this line about stress is a desire of the ego is right on. And then finally, I changed my scorecard. I no longer work for money. I make money work for me. And I now measure my life in terms of relationships and friendships and memories and experiences as opposed to dollars and cents. So summing it all up, what do I think it's about? What do I think the meaning of life is? I think the meaning of life is giving it away in service to others and moving from ego to a life of service. And I think when you do that, you can make a lot of meaning in your life. And for me, that has ended up being my Teach Tech campaign. We're trying to get technology education into our K-12 schools in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania in core curriculum. Thank you. I am really, really excited about that. It's got a lot of momentum. And so with that, I'm just going to leave you with this great quote from an amazing woman and just say to you guys, thanks for having me out. I am really, really honored to be here, and thank you for spending the time with me tonight. Thank you.